Rune King, chapters 41 to 50. The enemy tank was furious at losing his team and rushing to avenge them. He was confident in his power to defeat both Dongzi and Lulu after their last confrontation. After making his way across and climbing countless flights of stairs, he finally made it to the floor he last saw them on and was elated that they were still there. With Lulu's injury, he knew they had no escape this time. Dongzi gently sat Lulu down, ready to take on the challenge. He reassured her with a smile on his face, letting her know he had this. Lulu was concerned about the tank's high ranking, but Dongzi let her know that E rank and anything below were no match for him. Lulu, who was really starting to fall for Dongzi, decided to put her trust in him. Even if he failed her, she could just try again next year. The tank knew Dongzi was a sniper and was really confident in the close quarters and with his defensive powers, and so he charged to put an end to the battle quickly and get his revenge. Dongzi pulled out a runestone and quickly activated it, turning it into a massive sword which he used to block the tank's charge. The move shocked the tank. Was it opposite day or something? How had a weakling sniper blocked his charge? Dongzi realized at that moment that his strength actually surpassed the tank's and went on the attack, jumping high into the air to get some extra power for his swing. The tank managed to get his shield up and block the strike, but the power behind it sent him sliding backwards down the corridor, and the tank knew now just how much trouble he was in. Dongzi thought of how much his training with Poison Wolf's team helped him to be so versatile and be able to fight at a distance or at close range. Using his strength, Dongzi pushed himself off the ground, flew towards the tank, and started attacking him relentlessly. The tank was being forced back, and now understood how his leader had been defeated by Dongzi. Stepping back, the tank felt a bit more confident, as Dongzi couldn't break his shield with his current strength. Lulu also saw the issue, as the shield was an E-rank shield, so not even Dongzi's sniper rifle would be able to break it. Dongzi had a secret weapon, however, and pulled out the 200% strength enhancement runestone. The tank recognized the runestone and pulled out his own runestone to counter Dongzi. He activated his, and it increased his defense by 200%. Dongzi was eager to see who would come out on top and attacked again, knowing that his 200% increase actually had a little extra boost to it. The tank was nervous, but stood his ground, which ended up being a bad idea, as the impact smashed his shield into pieces, and with the massive impact his protective badge activated, eliminating him from the trial. Lulu was overjoyed and shouted out in victory, but something was wrong, and Dongzi's knees wobbled and forced him to grab hold of the window to be able to stay upright. It turned out that using 200% strength runestones really sucked you dry, and he was out of energy. Just then, Lulu got a call meaning that the rest of the team was in radio range and close, so Lulu gave them their location. After a few minutes, the team joined them with Zhuang Xiang boasting about earning some points. They then spotted the defeated team, and Lulu told them how many points she had, and the rest of the team couldn't believe the two of them had defeated a whole other team. Lulu let them know Dongzi had done most of the work, so the team asked how many points he had, and when he told them he had 4 points, they weren't so proud of their 0.4 anymore. Dongzi told them not to worry, as it was only day 1, and Zhuangxiang knew that since they were holding the bridge, they would have lots of prey and be able to ambush anyone trying to get across. Just then, Dongzi's stomach rumbled, breaking the tension and relaxing everyone's nerves a bit, and they decided to grab a bite to eat. In port on the examiner's ship, Shichu was watching Dongzi on her laptop and was really interested in how a sniper could be so versatile and swap to close quarters to beat a tank and a swordsman. His team wasn't in the top 10, but he was someone to watch. Also on the ship, one of the analysts noticed some strange data readings appear on his screen, and they looked really similar to breakout wormholes. At the high school, Zhao was waiting to find out how his daughter and Feng Rui had performed in the university exams. He saw them exit the school and start racing towards him with determined looks on their faces, and opened his arms to receive his hugs and hear how the exam went. They rushed right past him, and he shouted after them and asked what the rush was. The demoness let him know they were rushing to watch the live stream of the trials, and Zhao was not impressed at not being her daddy's little girl anymore. At the apartment, Bai Xiaoxi was already watching the stream, and the demoness asked her if she had seen Dongzi yet, but she hadn't, as they were still explaining the rules and how the safe zone would shrink over the next few days. The demoness was concerned for Dongzi, but her father let her know that he had asked a friend for some information, and that Dongzi had managed to make a full 5-man team, which would give him a better chance in the trial. Zhao also told them that Dongzi's hatred of rune beasts would drive him further than what the other contestants will be capable of. Back at the trials, Tang Yu noticed that the individual top 10 scores had been posted for all to see, and Lulu noticed that Dongzi had in fact made it into the top 10. Zhuangxiang then called out the first-place score, and it was so far ahead and sat at 52 points compared to Dongzi's 4 points. Tang Yu then pointed out that the notification had changed and looked again as a new event had been announced. This was a brand new event to the trials that none of them had ever seen before and would make things very interesting this year. Tang Yu thought of how this would be risky if you were picked, but also how beneficial it would be too. Zhuangxiang could only see the bad and just wanted to survive to the end of the trials. Dongzi let the team know that if they were picked, it would just boost their points as they eliminated anyone who came looking for them. Then the first target appeared on the screen, and for the next hour, Dongzi was fair game. Zhuangxiang thought he was stuck in a bad dream, and Dongzi couldn't believe his bad luck at being picked as the first target. Tang Yu wasn't worried and had good and bad news for the team. Lulu shouted out that she wanted the good news, and Tang Yu told her that the bridge was a great place to set up traps and ambushes, and that he had lots of traps for the team. Listening on the radio, Zhongqi asked Tang Yu for the bad news. The bad news was that now everyone knew they were hiding on the bridge, so all the weak participants would be staying clear of it, so no easy points would be heading their way. Zhongqi looked at Tang Yu and told him that both his replies had felt like bad news to him. Tang Yu then reminded Zhongqi that getting points was the object, and that just surviving would not get Zhongqi into a university. Dongzi agreed with Tang Yu and told the team that if they worked well together, they could easily survive the next hour. Dongzi then started his battle plans and set Tang Yu to start setting up traps with the team's help. Dongzi asked Lulu to keep watch and keep the team covered. Dongzi let the team know that he would be luring rune beasts closer to the school to act as distractions. Not long after the announcement, another team arrived near the school, wanting to claim the bounty. They believed that Dongzi was only ahead because he hid in the school and sniped passing participants. They were desperate for points as they were so far behind the other teams, and taking out Dongzi was their only chance to catch up. The leader didn't want them taking chances, and laid out his plans to approach slowly using every bit of cover they could. As they made their way closer to the school entrance, dashing from cover to cover, they spotted a killing field where a bunch of participants seemed to have been ambushed. Luck wasn't on their side, and one of the teams stepped onto a trap. They all heard the loud click. Seconds before the large explosion panicked the team and took just one of them down. The leader managed to stay calm and shouted for the rest of the team to stay close. They hadn't thought that anyone would have mines as non-runestone weapons had been forbidden. But then they remembered that a mechanic had entered this year's trial, and that meant the whole school could be covered in traps. Some of the team wanted to retreat, but with their low score and having lost a member, they had to see the attack through. One of the team heard a noise coming from around the corner and pointed out just as a van came reversing around it and down the road towards them. Zhuangxiang jumped out of the van, ran to the back, grabbed the van doors, and pulled them open a bit before dashing off in the opposite direction. The leader of the team wondered what Dongzi was trying to pull now when some noises started coming out of the back of the van, and an armored rune beast came charging out of the van, heading straight at them. They were in such shock they didn't even try to duck into cover. The rune beast spotted them and charged directly at them. The leader managed to overcome his shock and shouted at his team to scatter. His two teammates weren't fast enough, and the force of the car hitting them, which caused their badges to activate, his last teammate also seemed to be out of luck as the flying car headed straight towards her, while all she could do was watch it as it landed directly on top of her. But again the badge did its job, and even a falling car wasn't enough to get past its defenses. The leader finally realized that it was over and made a run for it, heading towards the nearest building to hide in. He slipped into the building thinking he was finally safe, but Dongzi and his team had anticipated their every move. The leader couldn't believe how they had outmaneuvered them so easily. Zhuangxiang wasn't interested in his words and activated his reckless bull charge skill, dashed forward, smashed into the leader, and put an end to yet another unlucky team. Zhuangxiang pulled up his points to see how he was doing, and based on his points, only a few teams must have come after them. Zhuangxiang then thanked Dongzi for letting him take the points for taking out the leader, and Dongzi was more than happy as they were a team, and everyone needed to do well in this trial. Lulu couldn't believe how Dongzi was able to one-shot all his opponents, and Tang Yu noted how well their teamwork was paying off so far, but that they had only reached the halfway point of the bounty. Dongzi was really happy with the rewards of the bounty, but warned the team not to let their guard down. He then thought about the number one participant who had been sitting on 52 points and how he had managed it so quickly. A participant was running for his life when he was targeted. A shot rang out and his trial was over as his badge activated and he fell to the ground. Standing up from his sniping position, we see the number one participant Ye Tiancheng, an E-rank sniper. On the ship, Yan Yu monitored Ye Tiancheng's latest kill with Bo Quan and noted how he was a lone wolf with no team and had now made it to 57 points. Yang Yu didn't deny Ye Tiancheng's strength and skill, but he didn't like him. Bo Quan also noted how a team was a must to keep casualties down when protecting humanity. Bo Quan did mention Dongzi's team and how they had caught up in the rankings, and Yang Yu was impressed that Dongzi had shared the points with his team when he could have easily taken them all for himself, and he believed that Dongzi's team had a better chance of winning than Ye Tiancheng. One of the analysts tried rushing to Yang Yu, while Liu Shijie tried blocking him. Yang Yu heard the commotion, turned around, and caught Liu Shijie berating the analyst, telling him that the data was fine, and he had given an order to ignore it. Liu Shijie then explained to Yang Yu that the analyst was being overcautious, thinking there would be a wormhole outbreak, but he believed it was within the acceptable range, and that he had dealt with this many times as the main examiner. The analyst insisted that this time the data was different and that there was trouble on the way. Yang Yu took the analyst's tablet and reviewed the data, and believed that if there was even a 1% chance of an outbreak that they needed to stop the trials, and he called for an immediate stop to the trials and for shuttles to be sent to collect the participants. Liu Shijie was angered by Yang Yu's actions and told him that everything was fine and that Yang Yu was overreacting. Yang Yu then asked Liu Shijie if he would take responsibility for all the participants' deaths if there was a wormhole outbreak. Liu Shijie asked Yang Yu how he was going to take responsibility for stopping the trial when no outbreak occurred. The sky rumbled and alerts started going off throughout the ship. At a monitor near them, a terrified administrator announced to them all that a wormhole outbreak had begun. Over the island, the storm started to intensify rapidly to a point where it was so powerful that when it struck the communication ship, the entire thing blew apart into multiple pieces and fell to the ground. All around the island, wormholes appeared, and all kinds of rune beasts started to emerge from them into the world, ready to cause havoc. On Yang Yu's ship, every monitor was giving off warnings showing the wormholes, and some of the crew began to freak out and panic, because it was actually a space-time barrier surrounding the island that had destroyed the communication ship and would prevent any other ships from getting close. This meant they couldn't evacuate or even communicate with the participants. Liu Shijie knew he had messed up and would be facing consequences for his actions. Bo Quan thought of how the time barrier would keep them out, but as it stabilized more, rune beasts would be able to come through the wormholes, and the more it stabilized, the stronger the rune beasts coming through would be. The crew panicked even more and just wanted to get away from the wormholes, but Yang Yu shouted at everyone to calm down and think of a way to break through the barrier and save the participants before it was too late. Yang Yu then started to issue orders and requested a large warship with an even larger cannon on it to try and blast through the time barrier. He also wanted to figure out a way to re-establish communication with the participants. The crew felt a bit more in control now that they had a plan to work towards, and all started doing their jobs again. The crew all started reporting on their progress and ideas and on the situation on the island, and the analysts let Yang Yu know that they had determined that the wormholes were only letting F-ranked beasts through at the moment. Xu Qiu reminded Yang Yu that the cannon needed almost half a day to be ready to fire, and that by the time it was ready, the safe zone would be very small, and by Bo Quan calculated that by that time, there would be thousands of rune beasts on the island and that the participants would make great meals for them. Yang Yu relayed a message to the warship to try to make better time and get to them sooner. Yang Yu confronted Liu Shijie, stating that if he had not ignored and blocked the analysts from reaching him earlier, the participants would have been safe, and because of his actions once the disaster was over, Liu Shijie would be charged and tried at Rune Hunter Court. On the island, Dongzi and his team felt the earth rumble. Tang Yu knew what was happening, but some of the team thought it might just be another test. Looking out over the island, Dongzi could see the wormholes opening up all over the place. Zhuangxiang couldn't believe their bad luck since it had been 3 years since the last outbreak. Dongzi was also in disbelief, and he was pulled into the past, remembering the last outbreak he was caught in where his parents had died and his sister had lost the use of her legs. The system was not idle during this either, and a screen popped up breaking Dongzi out of his memory and giving him a special mission to save the participants. It also offered him a special evolution mission if he managed to save over 200 participants. Zhuangxiang was terrified and grabbed hold of Dongzi's leg and asked him what they were going to do. Dongzi knocked some sense into him and told the team to calm down as he had scanned the wormholes and they were only letting F-ranked beasts through and the team could handle that. Tang Yu wanted to defend the school while they waited to be rescued by the examiners. Dongzi needed to convince the team that just surviving wasn't enough, and he laid out the case that the other participants might not be as lucky or as strong as their team, so should they not go out there and help the others. Zhuangxiang wasn't convinced that they could really protect themselves, never mind other participants. Tang Yu calculated that their team had about an 80% chance of surviving, so Dongzi's suggestion had some merit to it. Zhuangxiang didn't think 80% was a higher enough number to risk it. Dongzi reminded him that the rune hunter's main job was to protect those weaker than them, and that was part of the oath a rune hunter took. Dongzi asked Zhuangxiang why else he was trying to become powerful, if not to protect humanity and those weaker than himself. Zhuangxiang still had doubt in his heart, but was coming around. Tang Yu told the team that he was with Dongzi, because even though they might die, he didn't want to be seen as a coward. The statement really rattled Zhuangxiang, as he did not want to be seen as a coward. Lulu also agreed that she couldn't hide and watch others die when she could help, and that brought Zhongqi on board, as well as he also believed that rune hunters should always be killing rune beasts, especially to protect the weak. United, the team decided to set off to go save the other participants they could find. In the city at the consortium, Manager Xiao watched her investment being put at risk, and she couldn't believe how unlucky Dongzi was, but was happy to hear that it was only an F-rank outbreak, and that even though the communication system had been destroyed, video feed was still streaming from the cameras on the island. Manager Xiao thought that she would have to write off her investment, as there was a very low likelihood of any of the participants surviving the outbreak. The broadcast then mentioned Dongzi's team, and how it was helping participants, and running into danger while the other teams were running away towards the safe zone. Manager Xiao's belief in Dongzi surviving the outbreak grew as she watched his team fighting the rune beasts. All over the island, the rune beasts were causing chaos and terrifying the brand new rune masters. Many begged to be saved, but there was no one around to help them. The badges helped some, but were no match against being swallowed whole by a rune beast. Some teams were stuck between the storm and the rune beast with only one option to escape. With the savage rune beasts chopping their teammates into bits and looking at them with hungry eyes, they had no choice but to pick the best of the worst options and headed for the water. They managed to escape to the water and the rune beast didn't follow them in, but the water was full of its own dangers lurking in the deep. A large tentacle wrapped itself around one of the participants' legs and scared her before it flung her into the air, thrashing her about. The rest of her team was helpless against the ink crystal octopus in the water and could only watch as it flung her around and surfaced to lock onto them as well. They knew they couldn't even protect themselves, so how could they save her? The rune beasts positioned its meal while she begged for help, and with a bang that help arrived. Dongzi's shot ripped through the tentacle, separating it from the main body, and dropped the participant back into the water. The whole team was overjoyed at being saved, but the fight was far from over, and Dongzi shouted at them to swim for the shore. The team understood their predicament and started heading for the shore and Dongzi. The team managed to reach the shore and thanked Dongzi for helping them instead of eliminating them for the points. Dongzi told them that they should be united in their fight against the rune beasts, as they were rune hunters and had a common enemy. The other team thanked Dongzi and let him know that they owed him one. Dongzi pulled up his system to see his mission progression, and it was slow going so far. He thought about all the participants that had already died, because he had been too slow to get to them, and it fueled his anger. While he was distracted, the ink crystal octopus struck out and grabbed two of the participants that he had just saved. Dongzi was mad at himself for losing focus, and spun around and came face to face with the beast. A large rocket flew past him towards the beast, and rapid gunfire barked from his right, all hitting the beast, as his team made it to him and started to back him up. With the beast taking fire, Zhuangxiang activated his reckless bull charge, and went charging into the beast as well, stunning it temporarily, while Zhongqi flew through the air with his sword poised and stabbed the beast between its eyes. The team they had just saved was amazed at their strength and well-coordinated teamwork. Zhuangxiang was just excited to have put down another beast and earn even more points. Dongzi told his team to stay focused and clear the path so that they could all make their way back to the school. Dongzi told the team they saved to follow his team to safety while he looked for more participants who might be in trouble. On the other side of the island, some participants had just made it to the other side in safety just ahead of a beast that had been pursuing them in the water, but on seeing them escape, it left them alone. They were so happy about surviving that when a shot rang out and one of their badges activated, they all panicked, but before they could move, a second shot rang out and another badge activated. The leader of the team dropped to his knees, begging the shooter to spare him and his team, but all he got in response was 2 more shots, leaving just him able to fight. He was scared and angry and pulled his weapon ready to go out with a fight, but it wasn't enough, and another bang ended his trial. Lying in the grass on a hill was the #1 participant Ye Tiancheng, who was really disappointed by the weaklings the trial had sent his way so far. At the school building, participants looked after each other, wondering where the examiners were and why no one had come to save them yet. Many were falling into despair, cursing the trial, and wishing they had never entered it. Dongzi and his team arrived at the school, which boosted some of their spirits as many looked to them as their saviors. Dongzi started issuing orders for the team to help the wounded. Dongzi was trying to work out a strategy to help as many participants as he could. The storms were getting worse, and even though they were all hunters, their morale was dropping as many of them had bad injuries. Dongzi laid out the situation. It had only been 2 hours since the outbreak had started, but no one had or would be coming to rescue them. The safe zone would be almost non-existent by the morning, and the participants wondered if Dongzi was just expecting them to give up and accept the inevitable. The other participants heard this and weren't prepared to go down without a fight. They knew that their badges would record everything they did, and they wanted their families to at least be proud of them for fighting to the very end. Dongzi laid out the plan then. With the safe zone shrinking, the school would not be in its zone, so they would have to head out soon to make it to the safe zone. There was a problem with the plan, and Zhongqi asked Dongzi what they were going to do with all the participants in the protection capsules, as they were not completely safe. Dongzi couldn't believe he had missed this flaw in his plan, as they would be safe from the storms, but not from the rune beasts. Zhongqi told Dongzi that there were too many to carry, and Dongzi realized that they would have to hide the participants where the beasts wouldn't find them. Tang Yu suggested that they head for the island's main city, where they might find supplies and be able to hide from the storms. They needed the supplies to treat the wounded participants, as without them, they would not all survive much longer. Dongzi asked Zhuangxiang to select a few people to act as the scouting party and find them a route to the main city, and he happily agreed, looking forward to the challenge. On the examiner's ship back at the port, Yan Yu was being told that unless they could breach the barrier, they would not be able to restore communication with the participants. Yan Yu was mad and couldn't accept that there was no way to communicate and help the participants. One of the analysts had an idea that if they focused all their firepower on one point, they could possibly get a message through using a communication module to send a message to the participants. Yan Yu wasn't sure what the point of a one-way message would be other than to stress out the participants even more. Shichu had an idea and got Yan Yu's attention, but first she gave him the bad news. She had been doing calculations and had worked out that by the morning there would be over 10,000 beasts on the island. The participants couldn't survive that, but if they all worked together and destroyed the space-time boundary from the inside, it would stop the outbreak from getting worse, as it would be destabilized. Boquan didn't think they could do it, but Shichu believed they could, and that with it only being an F-rank outbreak, they actually had a chance, but they had to work together. Yan Yu started to come around and knew that there were enough explosives in the island's command post to get the job done. Yan Yu then decided to go ahead with the idea, but they needed to pick a leader whom they could trust to lead everyone and get the mission done, and they need to pick quickly. Liu Shijie jumped in and suggested the #1 participant Ye Tiancheng. Almost at the same time, everyone on the ship declined the suggestion. Liu Shijie was surprised and asked them who could possibly be stronger than the #1 participant. Shi Chu glanced at the bank of screens, and Dongzi fighting off beasts helping people caught her eye, and she suggested his team for the role. Yan Yu reminded Shi Chu that thousands of lives were on the line, and she told Yang Yu that she believed Dongzi had something Ye Tiancheng didn't. Yan Yu looked at her skeptically and asked her what it was. The rest of the examiners and university scouts looked at her in anticipation, eagerly waiting for her answer. She happily told them that Dongzi had the important ability to be able to actually lead. The streets of the island were deserted as the lucky hunters who had survived hid from the beasts. Many were not so lucky, and beasts fed on their corpses. Those beasts were not safe themselves, and the beast in question's danger sense flared, but it couldn't spot the danger before a shot rang out and ended its feast. Dongzi and his team of scouts were clearing the route for the hunters they had saved, as some were too injured to fight or defend themselves. Zhuangxiang thought of how lucky they were to have such a skilled and powerful sniper who could take beasts out at a distance with just one shot. Dongzi left the tree to reposition himself for a better view of their route. He quickly checked his mission progress, but it had only hit 22 saved participants. Most had perished by the time they reached them, so he was fighting a losing battle. A massive explosion erupted in the sky above them, and a fiery comet smashed through the barrier surrounding the island and plummeted towards the earth. Dongzi then realized that it was heading straight towards him and his team, and he had to dive for cover to avoid being hit by the comet. After calming down a bit, Dongzi went to investigate and see what the object in the crater was. Lulu and the team weren't far behind, rushing over to see if Dongzi was okay. Dongzi told them all that he was fine, and asked if they knew what the object in the crater was. Tang Yu, being a mechanic, recognized it as a military capsule and activated it. Tang Yu was expecting the capsule to open, but instead, the image of Yan Yu appeared and greeted Dongzi and his team. Zhuangxiang shouted out, asking if they were being saved, and Lulu told him to keep quiet, as it was just a recording. Yan Yu then informed them of the communication shuttle's destruction, and that reinforcements would only arrive the next morning. Dongzi heard this, and didn't think they could make it till the morning. Yan Yu told them that they were doing everything they could, but that the participants had to do their part as well. Yan Yu's recording then addressed Dongzi directly, and asked him to accept the leadership role as they thought he was the most qualified to handle the mission. Even though Yan Yu couldn't hear him, Dongzi accepted the mission. The recording continued as Yan Yu assumed Dongzi would accept, and he laid out the mission's plan. The image of Yan Yu was replaced with a map showing the wormhole's core that needed to be destroyed in order to take the barrier down. A second location was then highlighted showing the island's command center, which held enough explosives to destroy the core which they needed to collect. Yan Yu then wished Dongzi and his team good luck on their mission and wished everyone luck in surviving the outbreak. Zhuangxiang couldn't believe their bad luck. They had been thrust into one hard spot after another ever since jumping off the ship. Lulu tried to cheer him up, letting him know that at least the outside world was rooting for them and trying to save them. Tang Yu dropped the mood again as he realized how desperate Yan Yu must have been to be relying on them to destroy the core and have given up the command center location. Dongzi agreed with Tang Yu and told the team that he believed that if they didn't destroy the core, they wouldn't survive till the morning. To Dongzi, the solution was easy. All they needed to do was succeed in their mission. Dongzi informed everyone of the new plan and rerouted their path to head towards the command center. Ye Tiancheng was also stalking the streets looking for more points as he was concerned with how close Dongzi was getting to him in the rankings. Ye Tiancheng was really hoping to encounter Dongzi because if he could eliminate him, his first-place ranking would be secure. He was tired of hunting on the outskirts and had taken out everyone or thing he could. It was time to move into the city and hunt for more prey. Sitting safely in her mansion in the city, Tang Yin watched the latest report on the news where they were announcing the dual operations and that Dongzi and his team had been chosen to lead the internal operation. They mentioned that they had been chosen by the head examiner himself, but started to question if Dongzi and his team were really the right people for the task, with his low rune spirit and the fact that they had a mechanic in their team. Tang Yin believed in Dongzi and wished him and his team luck in their mission. Flying a safe distance above the barrier in his ship, Yan Yu monitored Dongzi and his team, and was pleased with his decision to pick them as they had already reached the city limits and were entering the city. Dongzi and his team had made good time so far, but the sun was busy setting and time was of the essence. The city felt desolate, and Lulu remembered that the original outbreak had been a D-rank outbreak, which had almost completely destroyed the entire city. Dongzi reviewed his mission screen, which showed an additional 5 points due to some participants they had picked up along the way. They were badly wounded, so the team had sent out scouts to search for medical supplies. Zhongqi contacted Dongzi to let him know that the scouting team had found a clinic that still had supplies in it. Dongzi and his team guided all the participants they had saved over to the clinic, and those with medical knowledge started treating their teammates and other injured participants. Tang Yu suggested that the wounded stay at the clinic while a capable team went after the explosives. Other than Dongzi and his team, there were only 9 uninjured participants capable of fighting. Dongzi asked Zhongqi to select 4 uninjured participants to stay at the clinic with him to protect the injured, while the rest of them completed the mission. Dongzi and the uninjured participants headed deeper into the city, keeping alert for rune beasts. Zhuangxiang spotted a store still intact that had long-life goods in it they could use. Dongzi agreed to let the team stock up, and Zhuangxiang was thrilled. Lulu went and got Dongzi some food and water. Some of the male participants were jealous because of how cool, calm, and collected Dongzi seemed to be. A bottle of liquor cheered one of the guys up pretty quickly. Dongzi grabbed his hand and told him smoking was fine, but he needed them all on their top form, so liquor was out of the question. Zhuangxiang was inside shoving sweets into his mouth, but something was wrong and Tang Yu was outside looking into the sky. Dongzi noticed Tang Yu outside and asked him what the issue was. He pointed out the trial ranking and how Ye Tiancheng's points had grown dramatically. Tang Yu calculated that it couldn't have been just points from beasts. Dongzi knew then that Ye Tiancheng was still hunting participants and collecting bounties. They confirmed it when 9 participants suddenly disappeared and Ye Tiancheng's points increased. Tang Yu believed that Ye Tiancheng didn't even care about entering a university and just enjoyed the thrill of the kill. The next bounty appeared on the screen, and Lulu was the target. The worst part was that it showed her position. Once again, Dongzi's fantastic luck had struck again. Tang Yu suggested that they should eliminate Ye Tiancheng before he could get Lulu. Dongzi agreed that it was a good idea, but didn't think they had enough time to both hunt him down and destroy the core before the rune beasts would overrun them. Dongzi reassured Lulu that he would protect her, and it made her feel safe. In the city, the woman in Dongzi's life watched him supposedly flirting with another girl, and none of them were impressed with his antics. In a shady bar, Poison Wolf and the guys were having a very different discussion. Poison Wolf thought Dongzi's timing was off, but Skinny Monkey knew of Poison Wolf's flirting habits, and told him he had no room to talk. Poison Wolf asked Skinny Monkey if he had a problem with his flirting skills, which made him choke on his drink, protesting that he didn't. Mountain Tiger mentioned how the bounty was so unfair to Dongzi and his team since they were all in the top 10. Skinny Monkey also noted that the examiner couldn't disable the bounty due to the time barrier. Big Cow couldn't believe that Ye Tiancheng was still targeting other participants when Poison Wolf told them he knew of Ye Tiancheng. Poison Wolf then told his team the story of Ye Tiancheng and how in Eagle City 20 years ago there had been a massive runestone beast that had captured a few children and had taken those children back to its nest to feed its young. A rescue team had been sent out to get the kids back, but when they reached the nest, they found one survivor, and he had killed the rune beast's young and fed on them. The surviving child had been taken in by the city lord to be his successor. Poison Wolf believed that Ye Tiancheng was that child, which meant he had the backing of an A-ranked hunter. Poison Wolf wasn't worried since Ye Tiancheng hunting the other participant during a wormhole outbreak must have angered many people with good backing as well. At the command center, beasts were spewing out of a wormhole near the entrance, blocking Dongzi and the team from getting in. Dongzi asked one of the scouts if they could use their drone to give them an idea of what was going on in the area. She let her drone loose, and they soon saw that most of the outer area was packed with rune beasts, but the inner area was relatively clear, which pleased Dongzi. The issue was that the beasts just continued coming out of the wormhole one after another, making a frontal assault a suicide mission. Tang Yu had an idea, and believed they could use the sewer system to enter the building. Dongzi agreed, believing that most of the beasts would be above ground. Zhuangxiang lifted the grate so that the team could climb down. Dongzi warned the team to stay on high alert in the sewers, as there would be beasts down there, just not as many. The sewers were not pleasant, and Zhuangxiang was battling with the smell. Tang Yu had measured the entrance to only be 100 or so meters ahead of them, and Dongzi wanted to get in, block the entrance, and clear up the beasts inside the building. Up on the streets, Ye Tiancheng was tracking Lulu to the store they were in when her coordinates had been shared. Ye Tiancheng didn't think that Lulu could have gotten far away and started to scan and scout the area. He noticed a clue next to a sewer grate and knew his quarry had snuck into the sewers like the rat she was. In the sewers, unaware of the new danger above, Tang Yu had led the team to a tunnel that would take the team to the command center. Unsure if it was safe or not, Dongzi activated his snake eye skill, but didn't detect any beasts nearby. Some of the team noticed some unusual activity in the water, and Dongzi knew what beast they were facing. Dongzi asked Zhuang Xiang for his jacket as the beast rounded a corner and noticed them standing waiting to be eaten. Dongzi lobbed some grenades he had gotten from Tang Yu at the beast, but in the close-off area, had needed Zhuang Xiang's jacket to protect them from the blast. Zhuang Xiang thought the grenades had killed the beast, but with its thick scales, they had only injured it badly. The beast blasted a jet of flame at Dongzi, and Zhuang Xiang managed to bring up his shield and block the incoming attack, which gave Dongzi time to position himself, take a shot, and get a direct hit. Even that wasn't enough to take down the beast, so Dongzi swapped to a melee attack and activated his jump slash attack. He used all his strength, and it was finally enough to take the beast out. The beast fell into the sewer water right next to Zhuang Xiang defeated, and Zhuang Xiang couldn't believe that they had taken out an E-ranked beast. Dongzi removed the beast's runestone and asked Zhuang Xiang if he minded if he took it as he needed it. Zhuang Xiang had no issue with Dongzi taking the runestone, as he didn't think he would have survived if Dongzi hadn't been there. Dongzi wanted to use the system to turn the stone into XP, and an E-ranked stone was worth a lot of XP. Zhuang Xiang pointed out a huge hole in the wall that had been created by the beast's attack. Dongzi wanted to investigate and went through the hole, and it led straight into the command center logistic warehouse. Dongzi asked Zhuang Xiang to fetch the rest of the team since the route had been cleared. Zhuang Xiang happily agreed to fetch them, while Dongzi continued to explore the warehouse, finding weapons, food, medicine, and other resources. The rest of the team joined Dongzi and were thrilled at what they found. Lulu's sharp eyes found some tactical gear, and she grabbed one and gave it to Dongzi to try on. Dongzi tried one on and told the rest of the team to suit up as well. Tang Yu went searching and found a few crates full of explosives. Dongzi told the team to search the rest of the warehouse for good stuff before they moved out. Dongzi searched as well and spotted a strange-looking box on one of the shelves. He went to open it, and inside were 3 runestones. He activated his goggles and identified the 3 powerful E-ranked runestones. Tang Yu suggested that the shield stone went to Zhuang Xiang, and that the other 2 went to Dongzi, and everyone else agreed. Zhuang Xiang was so excited about his prize that he activated it immediately to see how it looked. After seeing Zhuang Xiang's shield, Lulu asked Dongzi to activate his armor stone. Dongzi wanted to boost their spirits, so he activated his armor, and it didn't disappoint. The team was so impressed with how regal Dongzi looked in his new armor, and then he activated its true skill, and he was completely camouflaged. Dongzi promised that he would put the new stones to work to protect the team as best he could. Dongzi knew the cost of the armor, and that most D-rankers couldn't afford it, and he had just gotten a set for free, and he thought his luck might be turning around. Dongzi asked the team if they were ready to head out and asked Zhuang Xiang if he could take the lead spot. Zhuang Xiang was more than happy to take the lead spot, and it didn't take long before he got to put his new shield to the test. With their new tactical gear and weapons, the team had no issue taking care of the F-rank beasts outside the command center and left through the front door. Zhuang Xiang found that with his new shield, the beasts fell so much easier, but Dongzi warned him not to get overconfident as night had fallen and the danger would only get greater. A shot rang out, and a bullet hit Dongzi in his leg. The team were horrified and couldn't believe that someone was trying to ambush them. Zhuang Xiang jumped in front of Dongzi with his shield raised, demanding for the ambusher to show themselves. Dongzi guessed that it was Ye Tiancheng attacking them, and Tang Yu agreed, but just thought of how crazy he must have been to have tracked them this whole time. The bounty in the sky showed that there was still over a minute before it ended. That was the moment Dongzi realized that the attack on him had been a diversion, and the real target was Lulu. Zhuang Xiang was good at his job, and on hearing Dongzi's warning managed to block the shot aimed at Lulu with his shield. Zhuang Xiang continued to block shots, while the rest of the team got Dongzi into cover and bandaged up his wound. Tang Yu asked the team medic if she was able to fix Dongzi up, but she had only managed to stop the bleeding. Dongzi asked Tang Yu to contact Ye Tiancheng and let him know about the mission to destroy the core. Ye Tiancheng identified Dongzi and wished he had gone for a kill shot, but knew Dongzi's armor might have blocked his bullet. Tang Yu managed to get through to Ye Tiancheng on the radio and tell him the plan. Ye Tiancheng found the plan interesting, but in his mind, his trial ended once he had eliminated all the participants. He would then destroy the core himself and be the trial's champion. I just wanted to thank everyone for all the support, comments, and likes. It is really appreciated. Please continue supporting me and don't forget to subscribe.